Now what I want to show you next is a drum machine like this one, Rhythmix, and this drum machine specifically is a rompler, so it plays samples that are loaded into each one of these pads, and we have a lot of those, so altogether 64 pads in banks of 16 like this. So we can load samples onto each one of these pads, and we can use this, let's say, on a touchscreen based system where we can click these with our fingers and play them. So each one of those can be edited, of course. In this edit window, we can add envelopes, filters, filter envelopes, pitch envelopes, humanizers, lots of different things, even effects like distortion, equalizing, all of that. Of course, volume, pan, so everything is controllable. So every single one of these pads has a lot of included stuff that goes right next to it that you can use to process each one of these sounds separately. Now, what we also have in a specific drum machine like this one is a step sequencer. This is what it's called, a step sequencer, like this. Okay, now in this sequencer, I've deleted the entire sequence that was there before. It has 16 steps, and as you might remember, these are actually timing, yeah? So one entire bar divided into 16ths. It's actually not a bar, it's one note, one whole note. So what we can do to play this sequencer is just mark some of these steps and then play it. Do notice that there is always a green step. It's showing you where the step sequencer is at the moment, and it's actually synced with your DAW. So you can actually mark some of these steps like that or unmark them. And once the step sequencer goes over them, it will just trigger that sample. So this is my kick drum. Let's say I put it right there and here. So I use my snare, put it right there, and use another snare, put it here and here. So they all have different colors. Use, let's say, percussion like this. I'm just gonna do it randomly and see what I get, like that. So let's try that. Now when I play it, all of those are gonna be played at the same time. So for each one of these elements, I can just add steps in this 16-step sequencer, and it will just loop, from 1 to 16 and back, and 1 to 16, 1 to 16 all the time, just play them. Now what I can also do in a step sequencer like this, I can add different, elements like pitch effects. You will hear that on this hi-hat right here. I can even play that for you solo. Let's do that. I can even play with the panning, let's say, for each one of these steps. Now the steps that don't have any note marked on them to actually play, I can do whatever I want, but nothing's gonna be there, yeah? So it's only for the steps that are marked to play, I can mark the panning position I want for each one of those triggers. So this really opens up a new dimension for sequencing drums, since you can play with so many of these effects, like even adding bit depth, distortion, so bit resolution degradation onto this. Even decimator, just like that. I can make them louder, less loud, like this. So there you have it, a step sequencer. Now you have step sequencer like this in all of the old drum machines, like the one I've just shown you in the lesson before, like the TR-909 from Roland and TR-808. All of these drum machines actually had step sequencers just like this. What you would then go on to do is program these step sequencers so they would play what you needed. Now, you don't have always the same drums all the time, on drum machines. So what they used to do is they had not just one sequence programmed, but let's say another sequence programmed, just like that one, almost the same, but maybe a tiny bit different, so that they would have kind of an alteration, so that now I can play one sequence and then I can play the other sequence. So let's say like this, play it. I can, you see, choose which one of the sequences I want to play for each one of these. And they could have, snare right there or right there. So I could choose to change that by just changing the sequence for any of these pads, just like that. Although this is old school, all of this, step sequencing, it is old school, and it was used a long time ago for drum machines, for hardware drum machines, because this is the easiest tactile way for you to, program them. Although the new ones can be triggered via MIDI. So you can send them MIDI, messages, and they would trigger these pads with samples on them, or they could trigger synthesizers that actually made the sounds, different sounds. It still is, for some kind of, let's say, performance or usage, tangible usage, using your hands and you're touching it. This is the easiest way to program a drum beat, using a sequencer. Now it's still used today. I see a lot of, artists who perform live, like for house or techno music, using drum machines and using step sequencers actually to, program a beat that's going to be playing with the music. Of course, they are, connected via MIDI, and they are synced with the rest of the setup. So usually that external drum machine, just like this, and its step sequencer is synced to, let's say, Ableton, just like this one is right here, disregarding that it's actually outside, that it's hardware. So MIDI makes it possible to sync that, step sequencer with actual Ableton. And, that allows for a much smoother performance. So you can use step sequencers just like this, and you have, step sequencing ability added into, let's say, the push controller from Ableton Live. Many of those have those step sequencing abilities because it's really easy to program, timing for notes, but tangibly, using just a simple button just like this to make it, trigger at this point in time in that sequence.